Yeah, there you go. I think I got it now. I want you to look at that bus in front of me. Honk if you know what a woman is. Concerned Women in America. Well, what they're not telling you is uh, you go to their website, concernedwomen.org. They're conservative women and not addressing the true issue that affects all Americans. It's all it is speaking to people to distract them from the real issues. They're just bringing up, you know, everything in its hypocrisy. The number one hypocrisy thing there is they're pro life, and I'm like this: if you don't believe in abortion, then don't get one. A lot of them in Congress that, like Lauren Boebert, one of the Karens we have in Congress, had two of them, but she don't want anybody else to get abortions. That's the hypocrisy in America. Freedom for me, but not for thee. I personally, I don't believe in abortion, but it dies right there. I'm not going to trample on somebody else's right to do whatever they choose to do. And what they do, I don't have to answer for. I got my own sins to answer for when you bring God into it. I got my own skeletons in my own closet, and so do they. To have to worry about what other people do. Everybody talks about freedom, and then they do it too. They talk about freedom and rights and all that. Well, freedom and rights, freedom to choose. Yeah, they're trying to stop women from having the freedom of choice and an issue that they don't like. Well, I'm sorry. I don't care how you feel about that situation, but people have freedom of choice. If they want to murder their own born, then they have that right. I don't have to answer for it, and it doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother the mass of American people. What does bother the mass of American people is the economy. See, I go to the source that bothers everybody, that affects everybody as a whole. Living in this dying economic system that has outlived its usefulness, like every other economic system in history. And you hear me harp on this a lot. And I know there are some Americans that just do not like what I have to say because they're still living in a belief of the Cold War that ended in 1989. And when you go back and look at that Cold War, you'll find out how much BS it was. We are being told what to believe and accept without question by the rich elite in this country, in the United States, and probably your country too. We are told to believe and accept without question what they want us to believe because they control all the information you get. And why do they do that? To secure their lavish lifestyle and to keep you where you are and just give you the hopes and dreams of the American dream that one day you'll be well to do. And that's why we got a lot of 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people running around this country acting like shame millionaires, and they never were, nor will they ever will be, unless they go in and buy a Mega Millions ticket, which I just did, and win the Mega Millions. It's at $529 million right now. That's about the only chance you have to becoming a millionaire, or unless you invent the everlasting light bulb or something, which not too many people have invented crap. But I don't think men competing in women's sports is a big deal. It doesn't affect everybody, and people can care less. I think what's more important is for people to be able to have a job, make money, and be able to put food on the table and a roof over their family's head. I think that's a lot more important than worrying about what somebody else is doing in a sport or going to a doctor and having an abortion for whatever reason. That's what that pink bus is all about. They just came from Vegas. They're traveling all over the country. They passed me twice, And God forbid, I pull into this Love's, and sure enough, I end up right behind him in the fuel island. And now my question is, it's funny that the American people accept it. And it's like, how bad does it have to get for people to realize this has been going on since the late 70s, and they just refuse to see it and accept it? And it's not getting any better. It just gets worse and worse every year. And people can run from it. You can, have the mannerism of a 3-year-old and put your hand over your eyes and pretend the scary thing is gone. Well, you can put your hands over your eyes, but it only takes a little more maturity to realize that the scary thing is still there. Until you face it and deal with it, try to work something out to make things better, it's not going to go away. And they have this, a lot of these conservatives have this harebrained notion that God is going to send down some savior that's going to save our asses out of the mess that we're in. And they think it was Donald Trump. And I'm like, you people are delusional. That's why I started this live stream, because I know a lot of people are going to hear about this bus traveling throughout the country. Well, I just ran into them. I didn't engage. It seemed like they were standing around to get noticed in the truck stop so people would engage them, but nobody's interested. In a truck stop, the drivers, all we care about is moving our freight and making money for our families. That's all we care about. We don't go along with these foolish. Now, there are some probably that go along with these foolish, harebrained notions and ideas. And I thank everybody for joining me. I didn't think anybody would, but hey, what the hell? Uh, oh, crap. I just messed that all up. Now I'm back. Okay. Well, look, I know, Gordon, you live in Canada, and they probably bring up the same issues there. I would not let the ideals of America tear your country down. Canada is just fine the way it is. I enjoy going up to Canada, not having to worry about a crackhead or somebody hocked up on fentanyl. Now, you probably do have them, but I've never seen them when I went up there, not on mass number like here. I didn't see anybody begging. I didn't see any violence. Everybody's laid back. Hey, welcome to Canada. Hope you enjoy your stay. Except for the ones in Quebec, the French Canadians. Now they could be a bit stuck up. But I'm in the middle of Missouri on I-70 heading east. Mile marker 178.6. I got about another couple hours and I'll be in Illinois, and then I'll drop down to Kentucky and to Tennessee. But I got all day today, all tomorrow, and I got to head to Pageland, South Carolina. Pageland, South Carolina. Now, down there, it's Pageland, South Carolina with the accent. It's like real sloppy English, is what it is, with a southern twang. Well, give me some black eyed peas and collard green. We got plenty of sow belly. All we need now is a mess of greens. But me, I believe, yes, people need to talk like I am, not argue, but just talk intelligently about all this BS that's been going on to divide us. I want to tell you, yes, there are a lot, especially a lot of Americans. They try to put people in a class, and some people think that they're better than they are, or they're in a higher class than they are. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that 99% of us are in the low class, and the 1% are you'll never meet the and have a good conversation with them. You may meet them, but after you walk away, they will not remember you. They can care less, because I've met these type of people before and have had conversations with them. They're not the type of people that you can relate to. Their world is totally different than everybody else's. I had a drunk billionaire's wife at a bar tell me this, that she can't function in society, and she wants friends. She wants a normal life, and that's what she was depressed and getting drunk about. And she didn't necessarily love her husband either. They only get together because of money. And then they discover, some of them do, that having money like that, yeah, it's comforting. You get everything you want. But then after a while, it becomes dry. It's like you're still miserable. Yeah, you can have it all and still be miserable. Now, there are some that have it all and that are happy. But there are some that are miserable. Like that lady. Her name was Sherry. She wanted she wanted to have her favorite TV show when she ever got to watch TV was Friends, and that's when it hit her. She wanted a life like that, to have a group of friends to talk to. The only people she had to talk to, besides her husband, was other billionaire wives. See, these people do not function in public like we do every day. They go somewhere. They don't ever go to the grocery store or a department store. That's all done for them by servants, people they hire to do that for them. If they're not at home, they're in an office building, or they might be at one of the other billionaires' house, but they don't function in society like we do. We don't have people or servants, paid servants, to go and do our grocery shopping and department store purchasing for us. We have to do that ourselves. So we have to deal with Walmart Karens and Walmart whales and everything of the like. So there you are. But when it comes to the political view, everybody thinks that, like, the ones that vote, I'll just throw out Donald Trump there. He tries to pretend he's like one of them. He's not. He never will be. And the people that are supporting him think that they're just like him. And you have to sit them down and have them calm down for a minute and say, look, you must realize you'll never be like him. Not even close. It's a nice fantasy and everything, but it never happened. Because I'll tell you what, let me put this in y'all's mind. You don't want to be like them, because if you're a socialite like me, I love being social. I can be sociable with anybody. I like going to clubs with normal people. I don't drink, but I'll drink Diet Dr. Pepper, and I could love to karaoke. I typically, clubs I go to have karaoke going on, or okay. If they don't, I normally would not go in an establishment like that. I only go in there because I enjoy karaoke. It's fun. It's a participation thing. Be social, make new friends. I like it. It's like playing in a band. You almost not quite, but almost. You get that instant taste of performing live in front of a large crowd. It's addicting like a drug. It really is. I've never done drugs before, but I can imagine. It's addicting. You're like, wow, this feels great. You just feel the energy of it, and it's like a natural high you get. And I wanted more and more of it. I wanted to keep playing. It's fun. You're entertaining. You get the attention of the ladies, which is nice. Some of them get a little out of hand and overboard with it. Like we pick on our lead guitarist Steve there. That old lady pulled her teeth out at him. I've never seen that before. It still makes me laugh to this day. But Joji, in case you missed it, you'll probably end up seeing them. They'll probably be in Jersey, no doubt, or New York City. And I wouldn't recommend that they do that because a lot of people are going to yell at them and probably throw eggs and tomatoes at the bus. But I've been passing and they've been passing me, and we ended up in the same fuel island together by some miracle. That and on the rear of it says "honk if you know women." Well, I know women, but I don't control people's choices in life. But they're full of hypocrisy. They want people to have, here in America, we have freedom of choice, is what they always say. Okay, then why do you want to stop people's choice from doing whatever it is that they want to do, even though you may not like it? Me, personally, I don't believe in abortion, but I don't believe on trampling on somebody else's rights to do so. That's why I say, if you want to murder your unborn, go right ahead. I ain't got an answer for it. I got my own skeletons in my own closets to answer for. Like one of the sins I got to answer for was when I pushed my grandmother down the stairs when I was 5 years old. I got to answer for that, even though I got my ass whipped for it. But that's just an example. Yeah, I mean, I was 5 years old. Kids don't really know crap. When I was in my teens, I wouldn't have done that. And I dropped the link if y'all want to come up and chit chat. But me, I take all the issues that they bring on TV and bombard people with to keep us divided. You ever heard the term divide and conquer? Well, that's why we're conquered, because they made us divided. And they want to keep us that way because they don't want us to realize what the French did and they realized in 1777. And then they finally had their revolution in 1789. They started realizing this a few years before that, and that's when the buildup happened. People were starving, and their economic system was not working for everybody, only for the rich elite, just like here. Like every economic system in history, slavery, feudalism, primitive tribalism, you name them, are born, evolve over time, and die. Capitalism, no exception. Born 17th century England, evolved over time. And now let's see, what's the next step? Well, if you live here in America, you pretty much well see the writing on the wall. It's going to die. And it's going to die under its own marks, internal contradictions. But I don't expect y'all to understand all this because it takes a while to learn it. A lot of reading involved too. But me, I like to pass on useful information and educate people. That's really going to help them and to really get them to have an understanding of what's going on. Me, I have no enemies. Oh, and by the way, they support Israel too. Um, well, I really don't support anybody, but what I will point out is the genocide that's going on there. I've been there. I visited there once, and one of the most distasteful things I ever seen going to the Middle East happened twice, and this was one of them. That's why I'll never go back there again. A woman was carrying a basket of cabbage, a Palestinian woman, and she had like a baby. He was like maybe 4 or 5 years old boy. I don't know where they were going. They were walking, and there's Israeli military with machine guns everywhere. It was a checkpoint. Well, they ended up shooting and killing both of them. And my thinking is, what could have that young boy and that woman do carrying a basket of cabbage would have warranted taking a bullet to the head? They knew I was American and they were real nice to me and everything, but I was disgusted. The other one was when I saw a beheading, a public beheading in Saudi Arabia. I'll never go to that country ever again. I really don't care what his crime was. Yes, it's their country. I had to deal with it, but it doesn't stop me from being disgusted by it. And I'm like, okay, I'll never come back here again. And it doesn't matter if I agree with what they do to their women, which when I was there in Desert Storm, I didn't mean to break the law, and I didn't realize I was breaking the law when I took that woman's burqa off her face because she had blue eyes. I never seen a Middle Eastern woman have blue eyes, but she told me she was half German because she spoke English. And I was like, wow, gorgeous blue eyes. I was talking to her, and somebody tried to stab me in the back, but one of my sergeants, Sherry, a female, somebody that no male would want to tangle with, she will whip your ass. Stop some guy from stabbing me in the back. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? He tried to stab you, sir, and they handed me the knife. Well, I handed the knife off, and I grabbed my sidearm, grabbed the individual, and stuck my pistol in his mouth. And I said, next time we all come through here, you better make way. And I was deadly serious. Put my sidearm back at that. That's an international incident. I could have probably been sent to Leavenworth for that, but didn't. But every time we went into that wet market there, people just parted the way. Yep, that was when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, you tried to kill me? And I look back on it now, I said, I'm surprised I didn't pull the trigger because his head would have exploded. Like I said, the sidearm I carried, being in office, you have a choice. And usually a lot of guys took the 44 revolver or something fancy like that, but no. I said, give me that 44-40 Desert Eagle up there. Huge pistol for everybody else, but it fit perfectly in my hand. And a pistol like that does not make holes in people. It blows body parts off. Literally when the bullet hits you, it explodes, and your arm goes one way, the other arm's going the other way, and half your head's going straight up in the air. I mean, yes, it's very powerful, and there's no surviving if you ever get hit by one. And that's the purpose. If you're going to shoot somebody, you need to assume that you're going to kill them, because you try to wound people, it doesn't work. But if it ever comes to a point where you have to shoot to kill somebody, you better mean it. Because if you don't, They're going to take that weapon from you and then they're going to shoot you with it. The police here in the United States will tell you 3 out of 5 gun violence shootings is somebody that got shot with their own pistol or weapon. But if I didn't realize all the BS that goes on in our military on how they pass off responsibility instead of the officers shouldering the burden, like the top brass always dump it on the junior officers to pay for, and we just take orders. That's when I was like, I'm not going to stay. Even though they offered me oak leaves to stay, I would have been a real young major. I would have been 24 years old with the oak leaves, which is rare. The only reason why I made up the rank so fast because I was in military school. I turned it down. I wanted out because what I learned in military school was we taught to be gentlemen and respectable. And the military, we were supposed to be respectable and honorable. And what I was seeing was not honorable at all. It just, I was disgusted. But that's why I rarely talk about that because it's disgusting. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my country. And I'm sure everybody else does in that country that they're from. But I'm not blinded by the ugliness because I know my country could be so much better. Well, we used to be. We used to do the right thing and help people. Because it's the Christian thing to do. And these people want to claim that they're all Christian like and out Jesus us. Jesus didn't come here to judge people, and Jesus didn't come here to tear people down. No, he came here to lift people up and not tear them down and judge them. And I'm not going to go there because I was real close to becoming a Roman Catholic priest, but I love women too much. I could not live a life of celibacy. That was just not going to happen. Well, is there anybody here? I mean, I haven't seen chat move in a bit. Whoops. Try to hang on to people as they come in. They're like, hey, I mean, yes, when you go through critical thinking, true critical thinking of what's going on, yes, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to like what you hear. It's a lot of ugliness and bad news. But then it gets you to think, well, this is what we need to do. And that's how it starts. One person idea, that's great. You pass it along to other people, non-forcibly. And I notice that when I talk about the economy, everybody runs away. Like I said, you can run away from it and put your hands over your eyes, but the scary thing is always going to be there. And I know this touches at least you two, Georgie and Gordon, because you are 45 years and younger. But people 45 years and younger in this country, United States, do not remember the Cold War or were too young to even know about it. You know it happened, and your parents may talk about it, but the interest of the Cold War is about as interesting to you as the Peloponnesian War. But the older generations need to realize this, that the millennials And the Gen Zers that are now starting to turn 18 are going to have their way, just like the flower children of the 60s had their way. They were the younger versions of the boomers, the baby boom generation. They had it their way because they were the majority of the population. Well, now that's changed. The millennials and Gen Zers as a whole can relate to one another a lot better. Me, Gen Xers, we can relate to both, but we knew we were getting screwed. That's why we had the best generation of music there ever was, the 1980s. Yeah, the Gen Xers, we knew we were getting screwed. That's why we had that idea, or that attitude, I should say. No, it wasn't for yourself. It started the what we called a preppy um, type people. I fit into that, and I also fit into the headbangers. I fit into every group. Um, Preppy would be, and the UK would be called posh. But the only reason why people thought I was a preppy was because of the way I dressed. Well, that's what was in style and what was popular then. And I was a kid of my time. I followed some of the trends. But one thing I never did buy into was brand names. I never really gave a shit. If it fit and it looked nice, I wore it. And my parents got it for us. But this bullshit about when they came out in the mid 80s, these Reebok shoes that everybody killed themselves over. And to this day, I still have never owned a pair of Reebok shoes. Believe it or not, throughout high school, just about every pair of shoes I had were either Puma, but mostly Nike. Like to this day, I got a pair of Nike shoes on. I just go with whatever fits. Like one time, I needed new shoes just before I came over to the Philippines in 2016. We're at the mall, and I get hard pressed to find my shoe size. I wear a size 15. So we're in the mall. I go into that Foot Locker. Oh, I could find my size, but they're very expensive shoes. I was looking at that. We got Jordans over here. I'm like, I'm a Bulls fan, and I can care less about him. And they looked at me funny. I said, "Yeah, I'm paying for the name. I'm not paying for the shoes. I'm paying to. I'm giving you this amount of money for these shoes, so this individual that has his name on it can have a lavish living." I said, "You want me to buy into BS?" And I'm not. It's not like he doesn't have $1 billion to begin with as it is. But I ended up buying a pair of LeBron James shoes, and everybody kept commenting about it. And I'm like, yeah, LeBron James comes from the ghetto of Cleveland until he started playing high school basketball and got all that attention, and the NBA signed him without him going to college either. Good player, though. Yes, very good. Like Jordan reincarnated. And that's who he idolized. Why do you think he wears the white bandana around his forehead? Well, like I tell everybody, I see. Now, I'm not picking you on you Panays, don't get me wrong, but there are a couple I've seen. I'm not going to name names either, where their husband or boyfriend had got them a Gucci bag or a Louis Vuitton bag. I've heard these names. I have no clue who the hell they are, but I did Google, the price of some of these bags, and they're totally outrageous. And I'm like, these bags are not worth that kind of money for a handbag. I can I can go to the truck stop and pay $20 for a duffel bag and fit 10 times more shit in it than they can with this bag. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. To me, I consider it just wasteful. It's the way my father raised me, I guess. If you can't wear it, eat it, or live under it, it's useless. Oh yeah, that movie Wall Street, where he said greed is good. Greed is not good. Greed is what got us, the United States, our economic problems. It's got us where we are today because of that greed. And now the mass of people suffer. And when our economy crashes, it's going to be felt all over the world because we're currently the world's reserve currency, but that's going to change here fairly soon. Uh, because in 1971, before Dick Nixon left office, we were a surplus country. We changed from a surplus country to a deficit country. And that started the march to where we are today. All we're doing here in America is recycling other countries' surpluses. But now it's coming to a head because people can't afford what those companies that moved over to these other countries are trying to sell because too many people have been put out of work or can't make the incomes that we once made for the most part. They can't make that kind of income to have that kind of disposable income to buy what they're trying to sell. So what they did was the American companies that were here, they slit their own throat. Yeah, you can move production over to China, India, Brazil for cheap foreign labor and make more profit. But sooner or later, it's going to come to a point where the people in your own country where you originated from are not going to be able to afford to buy what you're trying to sell because those jobs are now gone. And the ones that haven't been affected by it over the years, well, in 2018, a lot of them got an education and woke up because they lost their job right before they were about ready to retire, some of them. Hello, Enron. And that's when they started feeling what people had been yelling at them since the late 70s. When those first crop of people lost their job, when like Roper and Whirlpool moved out of northern Illinois, where I lived, put a lot of people and my friends' parents out of work. GM in 1980 putting my aunts and uncles that lived in Flint out of work. See, it was all the way back then when I knew which way the wind was blowing. Closed it all down, bulldozed it, but some of the buildings are still there. But Detroit is one of many cities. It's one of the biggest urban bankruptcies in the world. But you go to Detroit, and then you look at places over in Iraq and Afghanistan, places that we bombed or whatever, looks the same. And we haven't been in any war in Detroit. It used to be a place of 2.5 million people in the early 70s. Everybody worked the auto industry, but when they pulled out, That's what happens. It slowly but surely it decays the city. And you look at Detroit today. You look at it back then, pictures of what it looked like back then, and you look at it today. That's what happens. But you got people saying, "Well, that's what socialism did." Socialism had nothing to do with it. We haven't had socialism. It was capitalism that did that. And they don't like it when you say that. And they can't argue that fact. But our economic system has been socialism or capitalism since our Civil War. Because before our Civil War, our economic system was slavery. But the sad thing is, the past two economic shifts that happened from one economic system to the other, yes, they were fought with blood. Capitalism didn't come in to the world, you know, as a savior and clean. No, 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 no. The French Revolution is one of those. They went from feudalism to capitalism, and it was bloody. United States, we went from slavery to capitalism, and it was bloody, wasn't it? And World War One and World War Two combined, I don't know, killed over a million and a half, 150 million people. Both world wars. Now, mind you, those two world wars were fought amongst capitalist countries. But you have people here in the States saying, you always have to shoot your way out of socialism. That's not true. They want to talk about body count? Really? More people died in the name of capitalism and God than any other reason. And when somebody speaks of socialism, I'll listen to them, but it's always the same thing. They speak of socialism in the singular. Socialisms there are, but they're not the same. And I'm like, when you talk about socialism, which one are you wanting to address or talk about? Because the same socialism in Cuba is not the same socialism that's over in Venezuela, that's over in the Scandinavian countries, which nobody wants to talk about because they're all white and they're very successful. The most recent one was Finland. When they went socialist, they haven't looked back since. They're like, oh, wow, their country boomed up and put everybody to work. And yes, they had rights. They have more rights than we do. They have democracy. They have democracy in the workplace. But we never really had that here in the States. We do, but on a very low level. There are worker co-ops, and they're mostly up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And that's your future, folks. Worker cooperatives is the future that will hopefully bring back the working class of the world. Where a community gets together and decides what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, and what to do with the profits. Instead of having a board of directors, maybe 10 to 20 people, like in Walmart, make all the decisions undemocratically. And they get to have all the profits too. That's why they're all billionaires. But their workers, even though they work full time, still have to go on public aid. There is a lot of them that are on public aid and they work 40 hours a week. There's a problem. I remember the National Bureau of Labor Statistics. They do issue a report all the time, and they did the math of what people make per hour. Okay, well, they worked it out per hour what a board of directors, CEO of Walmart, and all these monster companies make. On average, a lot of them make a little over $9,000 an hour. Okay, those people, tiny minority, who make over $9,000 an hour, do not want their workers to get $15 an hour. Makes sense, don't it? Makes you want to go to church, don't it? And the people who support this will tell you how Christian they are and how they can out Jesus you. And I look at that and I'm like, really? And I'm like, you think Jesus would support your ideas of this? You ask any man of the cloth, they will tell you capitalism is evil. And here's why: it exploits the mass of people for the so few. And me, I wish people would engage in me and conversations of this magnitude, because this is stuff that is really going to affect you or make your life better. And I try to make everybody's life better. Why would I want to tear people down? Even if I don't know you, why would I do that? I'm not into BDSM. I mean, I'm not the model Christian, but there are some truths I believe to hold to be true. I can't sit at a table that is so lavish and all this food while my fellow man sitting next to me is starving to death. I can't do it. Some of these homeless people, I've had a gentleman come up to me and ask me to buy him something to eat. I'm like, sure, you just sit with me. And we had a great conversation. That was about like 6 years ago in Southern Illinois. He was an elderly black man, and he looked hungry. And I looked at the waitress. She was, wanting to get rid of him. I'm like, no. Whatever he wants, I got it. The reason why I helped him is because he didn't ask me for money. He just wanted something to eat. And when I hear somebody wanting, they're asking me for food, I'll do it. But when they're asking me for money to support a crack or fentanyl habit, ain't going to happen. They're not going to tell you that, but you can look at them pretty much well tell they got a crack or a fentanyl habit that they're trying to have somebody else help them support. And I'm not going to do that. Ah, jeez. Well, anyway, hope to see y'all on someone else's live stream. I'm going to end it here because I really can't get anybody to want to join in. I'm glad you see it that way, Gordon. You probably already learned that, what I've been preaching. I'm not really preaching, I'm just trying to educate. The ideals of my forefathers, a lot of people get this bent. The United States was not meant to be one race, one language, one this, one that. No, we were meant to be a fruit salad of every culture on the face of this earth. Why? It was a brilliant idea, and here's why. And why God would want it that way? To stop all of the races from killing each other because we look different or we have a different language. Over here, I think just about every culture and race is represented here in the United States, including Canada. I got to hand it to Canada. Canada is really diverse. I see more Asian people in Canada than I do in my own country, which is sad. I just might have been to the right area. I don't know. But our country was meant to be a freaking fruit salad. Like my family. It's a fruit salad. I got nephews and nieces that are half black, half white. Their dad is a black man. My sister-in-law was a white lady. Beautiful kids. That's why, I invite people to come to a barbecue when my family has a get-together. Oh, you're going to hear every racial slur in the book. It's going to be funny as hell, though. If you keep an open mind and listen to what they're saying, they're hilarious. I should record it sometime just to show you guys. You hand him a gun, hand him a gun. Just because you handing a brother a gun doesn't know it means that he knows how it works, mother, you racist motherfucker. Because some people assume that you just hand a brother a gun, they know how it works. That's my family. But my dad raised me. Hey, any excuse to have a good time. My dad had very diverse friends. One of the most funniest relationships he had was with Ira Levine. Ira Levine, you listen to that name. Really Jewish, isn't it? Yes. And they were drivers together, same company. And my dad would send him a Christmas card, and Ira would send him a Hanukkah card. They loved messing with each other, but they had a close friendship. And in my father's generation, he was a child of, pre World War II that ended. My dad was born during the war. Even then, people still did not look at Jewish people very favorably. I mean, you do have a few that don't today, but not as widely as it was back then. I mean, crap. I mean, yes, uh, our African American black men fought in damn near every war that America had, but they didn't get the official rights where they could go into a restaurant and not be judged by the color of their skin until the late 60s. And that's awful. The late 60s is when it finally ended. It was slow moving, but it started in little spurts here and there. And one of the places where it started was I recommend you all watch the movie 42. It's about baseball, but it was very inspirational and it's a true story. It's the Jackie Robinson story, and they just named it 42. It had Harrison Ford in it as Mr. Rickey, that owned the Brooklyn Dodgers at that time. He broke the racial barrier by bringing Jackie Robinson into the Major League Baseball, because back then they had the Negro Leagues. It was segregated. And Mr. Rickey said, when people pay for a seat and buy food and peanuts or whatnot, he goes, money isn't black and white. Money is green. And the most inspiration part of that movie was when Pee Wee Reese, he was from the Cincinnati, Ohio area, but he played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And when he plays against the Reds in Cincinnati, he's actually at home, and his family and friends are sitting up in the stands. And right before the game started, he put his arm around Jackie Robinson, and that became iconic. They made a statue of that in Cincinnati. Put his arm around Jackie Robinson, and the crowd, went ooh like that. You didn't do something like that back then. He goes, it's a great day to play baseball, isn't it, Jackie? And Jackie knew, because he was looking at him like, what are you doing? He goes, I got to thank you, Jackie. He goes, thank me for what? My family's up there. I want them to see who I am. And then the umpire goes, are you ready to go, Pee Wee? And he's like, yep. And he takes his arm down, and he makes a few steps away from Jackie and said, maybe we should all wear 42. Then they wouldn't be able to tell us apart. And they all both started to laugh. But that was iconic, and that's why in MLB we have Jackie Robinson Day, and everybody wears 42. I have proud to have a couple of hats. My favorite baseball team, Chicago Cubs, and it has 42 on the side for Jackie Robinson Day. Very inspirational movie. I recommend that to everybody. But I got to get out of here, guys. All I know is I'm either going to bore you to death or you're going to learn something from me. But y'all have a good day.